It is 8 o'clock Sunday night here in Washington, where just hours ago, Barack Obama began a second term as U.S. president. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Mike Walter. The president's big speech comes about 16 hours from right now when he addresses hundreds of thousands of people in the National Mall here in Washington. However, as we mentioned, he is already sworn in, taking that oath just before noon local time inside the White House. But tomorrow are all the ceremonies, the luncheons, the dinners, and the big events around town. CCTV's Nina Donahue is at the White House tonight. Nina, why was there a swearing-in ceremony today, even though the actual main events take place tomorrow?
Well, it's all about the U.S. Constitution, Mike. There's a law that says that every president has to go through his inauguration ceremony before January the 20th. And January the 20th fell on a Sunday this year here in Washington. So that's why we had a much smaller scale ceremony at the White House earlier.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
The first oath for a second term. For the Obamas, a low-key ceremony in their home for another 4 years.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
America's first family dressed mostly in the same color as the Blue Room of the White House.
Repeat after me.
Also in office for a second term, Vice President Joe Biden, taking part in his own ceremony at home, surrounded by his wife Jill and extended family. But earlier, an altogether more somber occasion. Obama and Biden side by side at the National Cemetery in Arlington, Virginia, laying a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknowns. A mark of respect for America's fallen soldiers, and a reminder perhaps that he fulfilled his first-term promise to wind down the Afghan and Iraq wars. Obama has made public service a theme on the eve of the ceremony, rolling up his sleeves to help renovate a local school on the annual National Day of Service on Saturday. And one of only 2 official inaugural balls will honor the military. His first inauguration made history, in scale and substance. The first black American president drew crowds of almost 2 million to Washington, D.C. This year, the crowds won't be quite as big, but the city is still bracing itself for crowds of around 800,000.
Thousands will undoubtedly be listening to his inaugural address. This is a major speech. What do we expect to hear from him? Nina Donahue at the White House for us tonight. With all of the security, the balls, the performances, and the motorcade, you may be asking yourself, just how much does all of this cost and who's going to pay for it? For starters, we know the cost of Obama's inauguration in 2009, which drew nearly 2 million people. It cost a reported $170 million. This year's festivities aren't expected to be anywhere near that. Many analysts say the total tab this time around should total between $15 and $20 million. And although the president wants corporate donors to pay for it, it appears they are not volunteering the money, meaning taxpayers will most likely have to foot much of the bill. As you might expect, security preparations are well underway for Obama's second swearing in. There might not be nearly as many people attending the ceremony as there were in 2009, but the security will be as tight as ever. CCTV's Sean Calebs takes us inside the secret plans.
It's a tremendous challenge that only comes once every 4 years. Providing security as the most powerful person on earth is sworn in as President of the United States.
Protecting an event this large, complex, with this many different venues, with this number of people coming, requires a lot of coordination and a lot of organization.
Here's what we know. There will be 6,000 National Guard military troops, some 7,000 police from Washington and the surrounding areas. The Coast Guard is already patrolling waterways. With all of this, it is the unknowns that keep security on its toes.
The issues of the lone wolf, the person that you don't know about, it's the classic issue of what I don't know is what I worry about.
And recently, a solitary helicopter has been buzzing the nation's capital. It's doing research to aid security in the event of one of the worst nightmares, a dirty bomb, a conventional explosive packed with radioactive materials. Scientists are creating a baseline for current amounts of low-level radiation in the area.
If sometime in the future you have a reason to be looking for something radiological, it's very necessary to have the original background.
Radiation, believe it or not, is seemingly everywhere, such as hospitals. Gamma rays are emitting from unlikely areas as well. like the asphalt in roads and granite in buildings and statues. A dirty bomb might not claim a lot of lives, but it could render city block after city block uninhabitable for decades.
In the back of your mind, you're worried, you're holding your breath, and just hoping you get through this without any major incident.
Then there's the crowd. A staggering 1.8 million poured into Washington 4 years ago. It was history being made as the nation's first black president was sworn into office. This year, federal officials are expecting about 1/3 as many people. While it may provide a great venue, one place you won't be able to see President Obama taking the oath of office is from a rooftop in and around the Capitol area. For security reasons, authorities are keeping people off of rooftops like this one until long after Obama has been sworn in. Sean Caleb's CCTV in Washington.
As is customary after being sworn in, President Obama will lay out his agenda for the coming term on Monday. He has a couple of different paths to take to get laws passed. First, let's explain how the structure of the U.S. government works. It's made up of 3 branches. The president is considered the executive branch. He enforces the laws. Congress is the legislative branch. It passes the laws. And the Supreme Court is the judicial branch. It decides whether the laws are constitutional or not. Now, I mentioned earlier, there are 2 ways to pass a law. First, a bill can be proposed in one house of Congress. A committee considers it, makes changes to it, and decides whether it should go up for a full vote. If so, a full debate is scheduled, then a vote. If the bill passes both houses of Congress, the president can either sign it or veto it. A veto can be overridden, but it is hard to do. Now, the other way to pass a law, the president can sign what's called an executive order. These are usually used for procedural issues, and these have the same weight as laws, but still must be constitutional. Every president has used these, but they are easily overridden by a successor. Among the most notable executive orders in U.S. history, Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal initiatives, bringing the country out of the Great Depression. He also ordered the imprisonment of Japanese after the attack on Pearl Harbor. After the September 11th attacks, President George W. Bush created the Department of Homeland Security, and President Obama's first executive order 4 years ago was to make more White House records public. Here to break down the next 4 years for us and tell us what to expect and what usually happens is Alan Lichtman. He's a professor of history at American University, and he joins us here on the set. You know, the 2 L's are prominent, legacy and lame duck. So let's start with legacy. This is really when a president, their second term, they start to think about their legacy, correct?
And he shouldn't. Forget legacy. You don't get legacy by thinking about legacy. You get legacy by making real accomplishments that fundamentally change the country and move it in a better direction. So think about what you can do, and the legacy will automatically follow.
The other L, lame duck. It's a lame duck president. We hear this all the time. How much time does he really have to really get things done before people start jockeying for the next presidency?
Well, they're already jockeying for the next presidency. We now have the perpetual campaign in America. But obviously, you want to strike while the iron is hot as a second-term president. And there's only one way to do it. You know, he's got a Republican House and a conservative Republican House. But Congress is like Wall Street. It operates on greed and fear. So how do you make them fearful? You bring the American public behind you. If Barack Obama can get a tailwind from the people on his top agenda items, he's already got it on gun control. He seems to already have it on immigration. If he can get it on dealing with the environment and catastrophic climate change and fundamental tax reform to rectify the fact that we're becoming a nation of unequals, his legacy will take care of itself.
One final question. There's always this honeymoon period that presidents have. How long can he really, I mean, he already has kind of an unpopular approach for many members of Congress where they don't really like him. Does he have a honeymoon period at all?
You know, you have a honeymoon in your first term, but as they say, you can't go home again. He doesn't have a honeymoon. You only get one of those in every marriage. But if he's bold enough, and if he puts the fear of public retribution in the hands of the Congress, then in fact he can get something. I think you will see a bolder Barack Obama, a more forceful Barack Obama, and a Barack Obama willing to use the bully pulpit of the presidency more than he did in his first term. A great sign already is that he's taken his grassroots campaign organization and turned it into a grassroots organization for the next 4 years for policy.
Alan Lichtman, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks, Mike.